Before we begin, I'd like to remind you, as I always do, to please turn off your phones and other things that beep, break into song, and ring. I'd like to give a special welcome today to those of you who are guests but not members. And I suspect that many of you appreciate City Club. You appreciate the high quality of the programs that are provided 44 Fridays out of the year. You appreciate the great research that City Club has done on FDPNR and on PDC, and you can't quite imagine what Portland would be like without City Club. And you believe that if we didn't have it, we'd have to invent it. Well, but somehow or another you haven't quite gotten around to joining yet, or you let your membership lapse years ago and you haven't rejoined. I'd like to make you an offer you can't refuse. Today we are waiving our $25 new membership fee. We are hoping that many of you who are interested in civic affairs will join City Club. We have a new member today, Commissioner Randy Leonard, who is leading the pack. There are membership forms on your table, or you can sign up in the back of the hallway on the north side as you came in. Our forum next Friday will be called Oregon's Green Economy with Alan Alley, the governor's new deputy chief of staff. He will be discussing the governor's agenda to make Oregon the international leader in sustainable business. This should be a very interesting program. Please get your reservations in early. This is a program you will not want to miss. On behalf of the City Club of Portland, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the sponsors that we have for this Friday forum. You know, these programs really wouldn't be possible without great corporate citizens that we have in Portland who continue to support City Club. Our sponsors this quarter are Girding Edlin Development Company, LLC, and McEwen Gisvold, LLP. Would you please join me in thanking them? At this time of year, every year, the City Club of Portland presents the annual State of the City. This is a time for the mayor to reflect on the accomplishments and shortfalls of the past year, to talk about his vision for the coming year, the plans, and the challenges. But it's also a time for us, as citizens, to ask the hard questions about the city we know and love best. Is there a better form of government than the current commission form? Are the decisions that we're making laying the groundwork for Portland to be one of the great cities of the world in the next 10 to 20 years? And how should we hold ourselves and our elected officials accountable for the legacy we are building and leaving? Our speaker today, our mayor, Tom Potter, has served the city of Portland in so many ways for so many years. As a cop on the beat in the Sellwood and Brooklyn neighborhoods, as a captain in a precinct, as a police chief, and as a leader in community-based policing, as a civil rights activist, and much more. Please join me in welcoming a man who's given 38 years of service to the city he loves, Tom Potter.
Thank you, Susan. Before I begin my actual talk, I'd like to introduce a few people. Could all the city employees of the City of Portland please stand up? Thank you. I want you to notice there's sort of a perimeter defense ring out here that. And I'd also like to introduce some of my family. First, I'd like to introduce my wife, Karen Hansen. Karen, stand up. I could not do this job without her. I'd also like to introduce my in-laws, Joan and Herb Hansen. And Joan and Herb, is Joan's birthday. I think it's the 39th, I'm not sure. Thank you. Way back in the corner is a surprise for me. It was my grandson Jordan, and his mom Yvette. Jordan, could you just wave at people back there? There, he's way in the back. I have 14 grandchildren. Some say that's how I won the election. And just one more introduction. Actually, I've got several more. I'm not telling you the truth. I did want to introduce several people that are important people to me. I'd like to start off with a young man that I knew as a Weeblo Cub Scout because my son and him were in the same Cub Scout den. Now he is the president of the Portland Police Association, Robert King. Robert, stand up. Once a Cub Scout, always a Cub Scout. I'm not sure if Maria Rojo de Steffi is here yet. Are you here, Maria? Anyway, she's going to be coming in. We have also Senator Ginny Burdick, Senator Avel Gordley, Avel is one of my heroes. Mr. Ted Wheeler, Chair of Multnomah County Commission. And a personal friend of mine that has a dynamite smile, Mr. Norm Monroe. Norm, where are you? This is the last time. The last group of people I'd like to introduce. If you have volunteered for the city of Portland in the last 12 months, would you please stand up? Please stand. I know you're there, so don't be shy. Now, I know you'll be judging my speech today, but I'll be judging you next year, as I want to see at least twice as many people standing up next year as today. I want to thank the City Club and the members for inviting me to speak to you today about the state of our beloved City of Roses as it approaches its 156th birthday on February the 8th. I think it's human nature to get caught up in the day-to-day concerns that come with any job. But events like today afford me the luxury of stepping back, looking around at all that is happening in our city, and appreciating all over again just how much I love Portland and its people. I know you love our city too, and I truly appreciate that. Each time I return to Portland after having been away, I smile when the plane dips down for a landing and I see all the trees, the confluence of the Columbia and Willamette, and the sparkling lights below. I know I'm home. I even enjoy the rain. Most days. I feel like I have the best job in the one city I want to live in, and I am honored that Portlanders have allowed me to be their mayor. My hope today is that we can pause for a few moments like this to see our city once again as others see us and appreciate all that we already have and all that lies before us. Portland is rightly admired and imitated for our commitment to protecting our natural environment, for our livability, our friendliness and acceptance, and the outdoors all around us. It is hard to pick up a magazine without reading about how Portland is the most sustainable city in America, one of the best for biking, or the most walkable, even our vaunted position as the most dog-friendly town in America. Perhaps those are a few of the reasons why last month Frommer's Travel selected Portland as one of 12 cities you must visit worldwide. Please. So as we talk about the state of our city today, I hope we can also celebrate what others around the country already know, that Portland is a special place, filled with wonderful people, and is strong and moving forward. While there are many people to acknowledge for their part in making this so, I want to single out the tireless work I have witnessed from my 5 colleagues at City Hall over the last 12 months. Commissioner Eric Stinn, our most senior member of the City Council, recently celebrated his 10th year as an elected official. I think that was directly from high school, I'm not sure. In that time, Eric has been a strong advocate for our residents most in need, pushing forward the 10-year plan to end homelessness that has given more than 1,000 individual Portlanders and 700 families an opportunity for a permanent home. Eric has worked hard to ensure that all future development includes affordable housing, and this last year, we worked together on Operation Home, which is committed to closing the gap in minority home ownership. Eric has initiated plans to strengthen family housing and the link between our neighborhoods and schools, knowing that strong neighborhoods have strong schools and that families are at the core of who we are as a city. Thank you, Eric. You notice I'm going to be going down in seniority, just in case anybody's wondering why I'm introducing people first. So next in seniority is Commissioner Dan Saltzman, a powerful voice for family and children issues, who has guided the Children's Investment Fund and increased funding to stop domestic violence. This last year, Dan provided strong leadership in reforming the fire and police disability and retirement system. Dan clearly understood that if left unchecked, the unfunded FPDNR system would have bankrupted our city. Today, we have in place a system that provides for the well-being of our firefighters and police while protecting the economic health of our city. Part of the credit for this must also be shared with the City Club, whose 2005 report helped shape many of these critical changes, and the police and fire unions who came to the table with their support. Thank you, Dan. The third member is the newest City Club member, Commissioner Randy Leonard. There's always a temptation to label Randy a passionate advocate of, well, just about anything. But Randy's honesty, his directness, and his genuine sense of outrage when Portlanders run afoul of city bureaucracy keeps us focused on better serving our community. These same qualities have led the way in creating the citywide model for labor management committees in virtually every city bureau, reducing grievances and improving morale. Randy is now establishing Portland as a national leader in the use of biofuels and is working with Eastern Oregon farmers to grow the crops that will make us less dependent on foreign oil. Randy's recent resolution to end the war in Iraq has the full support of all council members in our community. Thank you, Randy. Our newest commissioner is Sam Adams. Sam is the only council member with the misfortune of having a name that rhymes with tram. Is Sam here? I haven't seen him yet. Is he here? There he is back there. Hi, Sam. Sam the tram. Actually, Sam is a whirlwind of smart ideas and accomplishments. His leadership helped make the tram a reality, one that is helping revitalize the South Waterfront, which I believe will become a Portland icon and tourist attraction. Sam has brought the West Side Big Pipe project in on time and on budget and is now working on completing the East Side Big Pipe project, which will eventually eliminate most all of the sewer overflow into our beloved Willamette River. In his spare time, Sam completed the master freight plan, created and passed a plan to reduce taxes for our small businesses over the next 5 years, and has taken up the hobby of growing and shaving off beards. Thank you, Sam. And last but not least is the guy that's always sitting on the sidelines at council meeting, sometimes getting agitated, sometimes smiling to himself. But last but not least is our auditor, Gary Blackmer, who has the thankless task of keeping us all honest. I want to thank Gary for the latest park report, which he released last month. These reports on Portland police officer-involved shootings and in-custody deaths have prompted significant changes to how the Police Bureau operates and have led to a reduction in those incidents. Gary's office also produces our Service Efforts and Accomplishments Report, an annual survey of Portland residents and business owners on how well the city is delivering services. The SEA report is an invaluable tool for all of us. We can evaluate what is working and what needs to be changed, and you can go to our city website and find the report there. It's a very interesting report. Thank you, Gary, for your service to our city. I began this week, like thousands of Portlanders, in celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. I can't think of any other 20th century American who has influenced our lives and our thinking more than Dr. King. Dr. King once said, "Life's most urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" It is the spirit of that question that I want to talk with you today. For the past year, I have been listening to more than 15,000 Portlanders who've shared their vision for the future of our city that they are so passionate about, and who have been grappling with their own answers to Dr. King's pointed question. At a time when the popular wisdom is that the average person is disconnected both from their neighbors and the larger community around them, the voices of the people who've been part of our visioning project offer hope, inspiration, and a vivid reminder to those of us in government that most people want to be a part of making their community better. That, to me, is the great challenge that all governments face today. Not just questions of taxes or terrorism, but rather how to reignite in our community, a true sense of ownership for the decisions that shape our city, as well as a desire to be a part of bringing about those changes that benefit us all. The Visioning Project has been listening as some of our neighbors have wrestled with these same questions, and today I want to offer a first impression from some of the voices we heard. But first, I want to pause for a few moments to assess where I believe we have come at the halfway point of my first term, and how I believe that journey has laid the foundation for the road ahead. I believe I've heard it mentioned by some folks that for the past 2 years has been a time of quiet contemplation by me. I don't agree. In that time, I believe we have begun fundamentally remaking local government at every level, remaking it to be more welcoming to their residents, more efficient with their tax dollars, more transparent in its actions, more accommodating to its neighbors, and working to make government as diverse as the people it serves. 2 years ago, I announced the Bureau Innovation Project as a catalyst to begin this change. Well, it is kind of a Cadillac. Now, 2 years later, 16 of its 20 goals are either finished or soon will be. Our diverse workforce is now better led by managers and supervisors who are receiving cultural competency training. Labor management committees are meeting in virtually every bureau, diffusing issues that in the past led to costly grievances. Programs are now in place to recognize and enhance customer service. Barriers to women and minority contractors are coming down. Permitting has been streamlined, and developers in the community now can expect a single point of contact within the city. While my first year of mayor was spent asking the city to examine what it had always done and what must be done differently, 2006 was a year to take that same challenge to our community. How do we tear down the racial barriers that still stand between us? How do we make our streets more welcoming for all? How do we stop the allure that gangs have for too many of our youth? And perhaps most important, how do we find solutions to these questions together? The answer to this last question has been the most heartening part of my second year as mayor. It is the community that helped us create a Human Relations Commission, I should say recreate, with a mission to knit our increasingly diverse city together. Portland is becoming a city of wonderful differences, different races and cultures, religions and traditions, a city greatly enriched by what makes each of us unique. But in that celebration of change lurk daunting questions. How do we make affordable housing, educational excellence, and health care a right for all? How do we keep gentrification from resegregating our neighborhoods and driving out people who have lived in their homes for generations? How do we create trust and a real partnership between the community and the police? The Human Rights Commission is now beginning that important work. A racial profiling committee is already forging recommendations for change that both community members and police are backing. Another group is tackling the barriers faced by immigrants and refugees. The community, in the form of a remarkable coalition of business people, homeless advocates, police, neighborhood members, are radically altering our approach to creating streets that are welcoming and safe for all Portlanders. Street access for everyone, or it is known by its acronym SAFE, will include opening day centers, which will provide basic services, basic dignity, and a place to go for our homeless during the day. We are increasing the number of public benches so everyone will have a place to sit, and opening more public restrooms. A new sidewalk obstruction ordinance will keep our business areas welcoming to all by prohibiting anyone from sitting or lying on a public sidewalk in downtown Portland or in the Lloyd District between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Doing this will not harm anyone's rights. Instead, our city will remain a diverse urban environment, but one where everybody's rights are respected and every member of the community shares in the responsibility for its success. These changes build on public safety reforms I initiated last year, which targeted, a small group of individuals responsible for much of the petty crime in downtown. These people are now receiving treatment or help in finding a place to live or a jail bed. And recidivism has been cut in half in downtown Portland. We are working with the community to create an Office of Youth Violence Prevention. The need is obvious. Just last week, our community buried a 14-year-old who was shot in the head in what is believed to be a gang dispute. There are now an estimated 2,000 gang-involved youth in Multnomah County, and we don't even know who half of these young people are. Worse, many of the programs aimed at helping them have been cut. That is not acceptable to me, and I know it's not acceptable to you. So we have drawn on proven leaders like John Kanda. John, could you raise your hand? Where are you at? There's John right there. Please introduce yourself to him after the meeting. He's a great guy. But he's going to help reinvigorate successful community-based programs aimed at helping these young people, targeting financial support for community organizations with a proven track record. Our community also rallied to bail out our schools last winter when budget shortfalls threatened our classrooms and our children. A coalition of business, civic, community, and political leaders helped forge a $19 million bridge that kept our schools open. That same coalition is now focused on finding long-term solutions with our legislators in Salem, and they will need your help, your passion, and your voices in the coming months. In the year ahead, the council will work with the community on a series of initiatives shared by all 5 council offices, a collective effort that will give direction to our common goals of building a family-friendly city, creating sustainable economic development, enhancing public safety, finding energy alternatives, and maintaining and rebuilding the city's aging infrastructure. One example is the Children's Bill of Rights. Last year, we became the first city in America to enact such a sweeping statement that was created by and for Portland's youth, to give voice to their right to such basic needs as a quality education, health care, and to be heard in decisions affecting their future. This year, the Council is working together to add muscle to this idea, committing to such family-friendly goals as finally building a park worthy of the Cully neighborhood where 13,000 residents now share a single 1.5-acre park. We are increasing job and internship opportunities for youth so that they can develop skills and acquire experience. We are expanding the hours of operation of our community centers, repairing play structures in our parks, and banning smoking in areas where children play. The Council is tying housing policy to building stronger neighborhood schools. We are supporting the Black Parent Initiative, a community-based plan to address the continuing educational gap between African American students and their counterparts in public schools. I'm asking my office to look at additional models that can be implemented in other communities. Through our Economic Opportunity Program, we are helping families with microloans, technical assistance, and training. And in the past 3 years, this program has increased wages by an average of 25% for hundreds of our lowest paid workers. I also know that this kind of community-based involvement can only be sustained if the business community is also growing and economically vibrant. While there remains a fervent few who delight in forecasting the demise of Portland's downtown, I have news for them. The city, including its downtown core, is alive and well and bursting with energy. If downtown is in trouble, word hasn't got back to Macy's or Nordstrom's, who are both committing tens of millions of dollars to reinvigorate their stores. Word hasn't got back to the Kimpton Hotel chain, owners of the Fifth Avenue Suites Hotel, which will soon be reopened as the Hotel Monaco, Portland's first mobile 4-star hotel. Or the owners of the newly reopened Hotel Deluxe, which to us old-timers, we will always think of it as the Mallory. Demand for office space is so strong in downtown that the current occupancy rate is near 90% and growing. Tom Moyer announced he will be putting up a 35-story tower in the Zell block for retail, office, and condominiums. Portland hotels have an occupancy rate 12% above the national average. The Port of Portland is fast becoming the leading West Coast facility for import cars with over 463,000 cars unloaded last year, the most in 2 decades. And people are streaming downtown to live. Why? Simple. More and more people want to live where the action, arts, and restaurants are. A new green link in the park blocks is under construction, and a few blocks west of there, the new headquarters for the architectural firm ZGF. The Girding Theater has opened not only to rave reviews, but is the first platinum LEED certified structure on the National Register of Historic Places. Yes. Thank you so much for clapping. I had a little pause right there and it certainly fit in nicely. Old Town is bursting with activity. The University of Oregon is renovating the White Stag block to house and expand its law, business, and journalism programs in Portland. Mercy Corps, and we have a table full of good Mercy Corps folk right there, a remarkable group that spreads hope and goodwill throughout the world, is going to be our neighbor in the historic Skidmore Fountain building. To support businesses that are the lifeblood of both our downtown and our city, as well as our residents, we are expanding a free wireless cloud that has already attracted more than 3,000 users in the first month and will eventually envelop our entire city. I will work to see that this wireless cloud helps our large and small businesses access city services entirely over the internet, making business faster, easier, and more efficient for all. I will work to ensure that this wireless cloud is available to our low-income families, along with low-cost computers, closing the digital divide in Portland, Oregon. We have joined with Lewis and Clark Law School to create a small business legal clinic to provide critical assistance for small and startup businesses. We've launched an innovative public-private partnership that will leverage $11 million over the next 3 years to keep the downtown vital, business open, and Portlanders moving while the Transit Mall undergoes a much-needed $200 million facelift. And by the way, that facelift will also extend light rail's reach to new neighborhoods south of Portland, giving more commuters more options. In June, now this is a big one, in June, the Cartoon Network will host the first ever Platform International Animation Festival, showcasing for the world what many Portlanders already know. This town claims one of the country's deepest talent pools of illustrators, designers, and computer animators. In October, 500 economic development officials from all over the world will come here as we showcase the economic clusters where Portland works with our business community in promoting our 600 sustainable industries, including our metals, manufacturing, activewear, and high technology clusters. Because Oregon cities and counties are important in building a strong and enduring economy, I have continued traveling the state from Astoria to Coos Bay, meeting with leaders across Oregon to talk about how we can help each other with common concerns, such as making our economies dynamic by ensuring children succeed in school, that are funded to provide quality education, art, music, and physical activities. I believe these new partnerships will pay dividends for all Oregonians. I want to publicly thank our business community for their commitment to growing Portland and for supporting Portlanders with their time, talent, and treasure. I also want to offer my congratulations to small business owner Sam Brooks, who is with us today and is the chair-elect of the Portland Business Alliance's Board of Directors. Sam, thank you. Sandra McDonough, the president and CEO of the PBA, can't be here today. She's on a trip, but Judy Pepler, vice president, president of the board of directors, is here in her place. I just want to thank the PBA. They've been a superstar in helping us keep our schools open and helping pass several key initiatives that benefited all Portlanders. Well, I believe we've accomplished much in the past year and look forward to the year ahead. I also know there are serious concerns about a number of issues. While crime is down for the second year, indeed nearly halved in the last decade, and surveys show residents are more satisfied with police, the death in September of a man while in police custody has shaken our community in profound ways that cannot and will not be ignored. What happened that day is still under investigation, but this much is clear. Chief Rosie Sizer and I are going to do everything we can to prevent something like this from happening again. We must restore the trust between the police and the community that I know has been eroded by James Chassey's death. 2 weeks ago, a committee I co-sponsored with State Senators Abel Gordley and Ben Westland and Multnomah County Chair Ted Wheeler identified 14 immediate actions that can change how our local and regional mental health and public safety systems work together to prevent these kinds of tragedies. These changes come with a price tag, but I cannot believe that $6 million is too steep a price for us to pay to expand care, hire more crisis specialists to work with officers on the street, and open an around-the-clock crisis center. I'm working with my co-sponsors, and we're going to be working with Salem to fund these desperately needed programs. While that work goes on in Salem, there are other changes we are making here. I'm working with Chief Sizer to change how the Portland Police Bureau operates, adding an auditor to assess how police interact with the community, and designing early intervention strategies for individual officers who are experiencing problems. This will help supervisors take corrective action before problems become worse. Community members will have more opportunities to interact with police officers starting February 15th, when every precinct will remain open till midnight. And we are working to keep some of the precincts open around the clock. Beginning in February, every single Portland police officer will receive crisis intervention training, which will help officers identify and successfully engage individuals on the street with special needs. This training will help officers de-escalate situations until mental health professionals can take over. None of us want another tragedy like that of James Chassie. I want the Chassie family to know, and our community to know, that real change is happening. Chief Sizer has had many tough issues to confront in her first 10 months, but in every instance, her first instinct is always to reach out and engage the members of the organization and the community. We both want to see officers out of their car more often, talking with people, building relationships, and working with the community to solve problems. I believe this commitment will help make the Portland Police Bureau a model of true community policing. My colleagues and I are also wrestling with the Charter Review Commission, recommendations on the Charter Review Commission. And I was deciding how to say what type of wrestling it was. Thought of Greco wrestling, sumo wrestling, mud wrestling. But I just decided to leave it as is, so I'm not going to mention those. The Charter Review Commission has examined Portland's form of government, the relationship between the city and the Portland Development Commission, civil service reforms, and periodic charter review. The panel has spent over 2,000 volunteer hours tackling difficult issues, and I want to thank them again publicly for their dedication, their efforts, and their very thick skins. I especially want to thank the two people who've been chairs of the commission, first Charles Wilhoit and now David Wong, for their leadership and insights into this process. Just a few days ago, someone on the radio wondered why we were even bothering with all of this. No one he knew, the interviewer said, was talking about charter review. Well, I bet they are today. I think there are three simple answers to that. I believe that charter review reforms will make government use tax dollars more efficiently, will improve city services, and will increase the community's access to government. I know that not everyone agrees on all the charter reform recommendations. For instance, there are questions about the role of the Portland Development Commission and its relationship to the City Council. But I believe there is much that all of us, including the 5 PDC commissioners I have appointed in the last 2 years, do agree on. We agree, for instance, on the need to create more family wage jobs, which is why the PDC created a construction wage and hiring policy with input from union and non-union contractors, developers, minorities, and construction workers. It will be applied to projects that are not clearly subject to federal or state prevailing wage laws. We all agree that more minority contractors and workers must share in Portland's booming economy, which is why the PDC is demanding a rapid increase in the number of minority-owned firms included in projects and has begun to audit whether developers are meeting those goals. Just last week, Lolita Burnett, a longtime Portland business leader in promoting workforce diversity, joined the agency, and she will be working closely with PDC Chair Mark Rosenbaum, who is here today, and Executive Director Bruce Warner. Lolita is here today, and I would hope that you'd have an opportunity to meet her. Lolita, where are you? There she is. Please say hi to her. We've also asked the Charter Commission to study what form of government is best for our city. Their recommendation is to revise our commission form of government with a professional manager to oversee the operations of city bureaus. This manager would report to the mayor. Of all of the recommendations from the Charter Review Commission, this is probably the most controversial. But I hope there is one thing that we can all agree on. Now that the Charter Review Commission's recommendations are complete, after an exhaustive 14-month public process, Portlanders should be allowed to make up their own minds about these important issues this spring at the ballot box. I'm sure I'll be having a meeting with a couple of the commissioners afterwards. Whatever our individual concerns, if the 4 recommendations are allowed to go to vote, the next 4 months will allow a full and complete public discussion of these concerns, giving voters the time they need to make informed decisions on the 4 issues. I look forward to those discussions. I also look forward to hearing the community's voice on Election Day. My desire to place the community at the center of this and any decision that affects their future is also at the core we have gleaned from the Visioning Project's early data. Those 15,000 Portlanders I mentioned at the beginning of the speech are crystal clear not only about their affection for our city, but also their interest in making it a better place for everyone, and their willingness to work together to see those dreams come true. I believe it is a message that we cannot ignore because it is bubbling up from every part of our community, expressed in familiar voices and those we have never heard before. Joining us today are a few folks who have helped us hear those diverse voices, which over the next few months will be joined to help shape a strategic plan that will guide our city for decades to come. My pledge to each of them and to everyone in this city is that their work will not sit on a shelf gathering dust, but would be part of the foundation we use to chart Portland's future. Would you please stand up when I mention your name? First, I'd like to call Romeo Sosa of the Vaz Workers' Rights Educational Project. Here's Romeo. And with him, he has one of the day workers with him, Ablio Garcia. Thank you, Romeo, for all you do for our community. He works primarily with day laborers, mainly Latino immigrant men, who gather in Northeast Portland streets each day in search of work. VOZ has improved community relations through education for day laborers, as well as police and surrounding businesses. Romeo has established fair wages for workers and a code of conduct in hiring. Romeo has helped the Visioning Project talk to laborers as they wait for work about their hopes and dreams for Portland's future. The workers said they come from a culture where many distrust police was a common thing. For many, this was the first time any government has expressed interest in their opinions, and they were excited about working on community problems together. We met Fran Wyack. Fran, could you stand up? Here she is right here. We met Fran through Human Solutions, which helps families gain self-sufficiency by providing affordable housing, skill development, and family support services. Fran said neighbors became closer through this visioning process and felt so empowered by the conversations that they've changed the way that Human Solution conducts some of the other services and activities, with residents now taking charge of some of the classes. And they've been inspired to begin work with the Hazelwood Neighborhood Association to break down barriers between renters and landlords in their neighborhood. Thank you, Fran. Next is Corliss McKeever. Corliss is president and CEO of the African American Health Coalition. The African American Health Coalition used its standing in the African American community to overcome mistrust of government and involve hundreds of people in the Visioning Project who likely would have otherwise not taken part. We heard of the challenges of gentrification, high unemployment, racial profiling, and the need for more diversity in Portland's business community and city leadership. But we also heard what people value about Portland: its small, big city feel, its beauty and greenery, their desire to see the next generation inherit these gifts. My thanks to each of you for your help and guidance in reaching out to every part of our community. With the help of folks like this, we've heard from some of our largest companies and smallest. We've heard from business associations and neighborhood associations, from the disabilities community and the arts community, from schools and folks who just stopped by. We heard from every income level and every educational level. I was hoping to make it through the speech, but I didn't. They put something in this bottle. Anyway, while they're, maybe I better have some. While their specific ideas ranged across the board, their goal was a common one: involve us in making Portland stay special, not just for our families, but for everyone's family. Let us help make our schools strong and all children successful human beings. Let us help work together to keep our visual and performing arts strong. Let us help continue strengthening the fragile relationship between the built and natural environment. Let us help ensure our homes, buildings, and thoroughfares are friendly and accessible to people with disabilities. And let us work together to find answers to Dr. King's question: what are you doing for others? When we answer that last question for ourselves, our families, and our community, with all of us working toward the common good, then think of the city we can become. Problems that seem impossible today will disappear as we tap into a community wanting to help, willing to give, and filled with new ideas and shared goals. As one Vision participant wrote on a questionnaire, "I love that Portlanders believe Portland belongs to them." I love that too. I believe that sense of ownership, that bond each of us feels with our city, makes Portland unique. As we work to make Portland a better place, let us also work to make the world a better place. A place where someday racism, sexism, and homophobia will only be found in history books, where every child and adult will know they are valued and loved. A place where people take care of each other and those who are unable to care for themselves. I believe Portland can be that place. All we have to do is to believe it so and behave each day as if it were our only opportunity to make it happen. Thank you for believing in Portland, and thank you for allowing me to talk with you.
We will have time for a few questions. A privilege of membership in City Club is to be able to ask a question of our speaker. There's a microphone over here, so please line up. A question in this context is 30 seconds or less, so as to allow time for more questions. Our first question today will be asked by our board host, Larry Wallach. He is a member of the City Club Board of Governors. Larry is Dean of the College of Urban and Public Affairs at Portland State University. He is a citizen who is truly one of the riches of our city. Larry.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Mayor Potter. Thank you. Well, Mayor Potter, things sound pretty good, but one of your main goals for the upcoming year is charter reform. This is a complicated issue, and for a lot of people, it's sort of inside baseball. So I'm wondering if you'll help us understand the importance of charter reform by telling us a little bit about if charter reform that you are proposing had been in place at the beginning of your administration, how would Portland be a better place now?
I have to say this one thing about Larry, is that Susan forgot to mention his most important function. He's Mr. Linda Netikoban. So that kills about 15 seconds, so then I'll go to the other answer. Is that, to the average person on the street, I think Larry's absolutely right. So what? Well, the Portland City Charter, first of all, is Portland's constitution. It really hasn't had a top-to-bottom review in over 80 years. The form of government that Portland has was created in 1913 and has not changed since then. There have been a number of attempts to change it, and they've all been voted down. But I believe it's time that we have a community discussion, not just about the charter review, about the form of government, but also about the other three areas. One is civil service, is that the civil service system hasn't really had any major reform in over 3 decades. Also, it's about the Portland Development Commission's relationship with the city of Portland. I think it's perfect, but some people have a problem with it. But no, it's not perfect. But I'll tell you this, is that I'm really proud of the things that PDC is doing. We are engaging and working with PDC on their budget process. We have Commissioner Erickson and Commissioner Dan Salzman working with Mark Rosenbaum and Charles Wilhoit from the PDC Commission. And I think that our relationship is definitely going to be better because I think that we both have common goals. Much has happened with the Portland Development Commission over the last 2 years. And I guess you have to be an insider to know just how much change there has truly been to that commission. And I really give a lot of credit to Mark Rosenbaum, the chair, as well as the executive director. I think they do a really tremendous job under difficult circumstances. But that's an area that most citizens read about in the newspaper and they think, well, what's the big deal? Well, the city is responsible for studying public policy and ensuring that it's being implemented. And the Portland Development Commission certainly understands that. And I think that in order, though, to clarify that relationship, there needs to be some information given to voters so that they can assure themselves that what we are doing as a city is consistent and what PDC is doing is consistent with the city policies and procedures. So civil service, the form of government, PDC, and the fourth one is about periodic review of the city charter, is that the city charter does not call for a periodic review, so that's the reason why it's been almost 80 years now since the charter's had a thorough going through. And that's the other thing, is to ensure that at least every 6 years that there is a periodic review of the charter. It's important to Portland citizens because how we are structured will determine how services are delivered, access points within the city. This council works very hard at creating and keeping open the access points. But wouldn't it be nice if the actual form of city government allowed for it even more? So there's areas that are important. I believe it will help create not just efficiency, but also effectiveness in terms of how services are provided. I'm sure that you'll hear from other folks as to their feelings about it. And one of the things I really appreciate about this is the fact that we are now going to have public discussion about something that has been sort of an insider's game. So I'm looking forward to the public discussion, and eventually I'm looking forward to the citizens of Portland choosing which form of government and how the PDC works, how civil service functions, and require us to have periodic review of our city charter.
Okay, we're in a situation where Susan's asked me to do a second question because we had a... Okay. Do you want me to do this while we're waiting, or? Okay.
Ray, can I guess what your question is?
Yes, Mayor. Ray Polani, a City Club member. How about the East Bank Freeway? Isn't it time that it should go away from our beautiful river and that should become part of downtown Portland with housing, business, and the like. I think we are one of the few cities that has developed the center of town to one freeway. I think it's time. What do you say?
Well, first, I'd like to know how you really feel about it. You know, our Loop Freeway is in need of either major repair or major replacement. That freeway is the hub for regional freight transportation in this area. If you've got products you're taking from Nike or Intel and they've got to be out to the airport, they've got to go through that particular freeway loop. We have to replace our bridge over the Columbia River. The intersection of I-84 and I-5 is one of the most congested intersections on the west on the I-5 corridor. I believe that there have been a number of recommendations. There was actually a freeway loop committee put together by Mayor Katz, headed up by Dean Toulon, and they came back with some recommendations. And so now that Sam Adams is in charge of transportation, maybe 24 or 36 hours, he'll have this thing fixed. To answer your question seriously, Ray, because I know that transportation is such an important issue to you, is that we need to do something. If burying, doing away with the Interstate 5 bridge and putting a tunnel under the Willamette is the best idea, maybe we need to go back to Boston and see what they're doing with their tunnel program. Oh, the crowd's turned on me now. Anyway, I do believe that something has to be done. I, quite frankly, haven't really figured out what the best answer is, because any answer is going to cost us billions of taxpayer dollars.
Okay. Well, Mayor Potter, you were right. That first question was actually from my wife. Here's the second question from the other most important person in my life, Dan Bernstein at PSU. And Mayor Potter, Portland State University is a major economic driver for the city, yet it doesn't seem that there's a lot of relationship between the city and Portland State University, given the importance that it has. How can the city and Portland State become better partners and work more toward their common goals?
Thank you.
Okay, Dan? Okay.
Well, I did give Dan a friendship ring. He gets embarrassed whenever I tell people that. Portland State is an important partner, not just with the official city of Portland, but with its residents. And the sign that you drive under when you go up Broadway, it says, "Knowledge serves the city." That's very true, is that knowledge does serve the city. And that PSU has always done a remarkable job of serving this city. Whether they are providing the co-chairs for the visioning project or working with us on some statistical analysis from the vision project, whatever it is, they're always ready to step up to the plate. I think it is an area that we need to improve. A few months ago, I met with all of the university presidents here in Portland and talked with them about how we can ensure that their voices are heard and that they are recognized for their contributions to this community. And so we're going to continue those meetings. And I know that Commissioner Adams' office has been meeting with universities as well to try to figure out how we can help them. And a lot of cities I know are known for their universities, and we are too, but we don't publicize it enough. One of the suggestions is we should have more signs around town indicating where the universities are and how to get to them so that people can visit our universities. PSU has formed its own university district. They are rapidly expanding. If any of you haven't been up there recently, they are becoming the U District of Portland. And I look forward to the day that when we can claim that our university system here in Portland is not only bigger, but better than the one in Seattle. So I'm going to continue to work with Dan Bernstein, the other college presidents and university presidents, because education is so important, not just to our children, but also to our community.
On behalf of the City Club of Portland, I'd like to thank our members and guests for being here today and remind those of you who are guests that we would love to have you as members. I'd also like to thank our radio and television audience for your interest in City Club and ask you to join me in thanking Mayor Potter for his service, for his inclusiveness, and for his leadership to the City of Portland. Hope to see you next week, and we are adjourned.